I'm going to start with the introduction of the current board, and I'll start with myself. My name is Kevin Richmond. I represent Oklahoma and Kansas, and I'm currently serving as the ABGA president. Mr. Mike Reese here is the vice president.
Serving Region 5, California, Nevada, and Arizona.
Kimville, Region 10, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida.
Brad Mackey, Region 13.
Kim Morgan, Region 9.
Olivia Rush, Region 2.
Paige Gunderson, Region 3.
Sam Knott, Region 8, that's Iowa and Illinois. I also serve as your treasurer.
Lauren Green, I serve Region 6, that's Missouri and Arkansas. There you go.
My name's Chuck Fitzwater. I serve Region 12, that's West Virginia, Maryland, Virginia, and Delaware.
We're missing a couple of directors this week. One is Rosalind Vizina from Oregon, and the other is Casey McLean from Texas. And I also don't see Gage Taylor here from Texas. So I think that makes up the majority of the board. So this is the group that I've had the pleasure to work with this past year, and I'm certainly thankful for all of them. We do have two board members that this is they're retiring from the board this election cycle. The first is Miss Kim Morgan. So we've got a couple of things for them, for her as she leaves. And the second is myself. This is my end of my term. You guys voted in the term limit, so I'm term limited out after about 29 days. So we will be leaving the board. The new board members that were recently elected to fill those spots, again, it'll be Paige Gunderson, Mr. Jeff Gibbs. I'm sure he's here in the audience somewhere. Wave your arms. There he is. Mr. Gibbs is taking over for me in Region 4. Mike Reese is back for another term. Casey McLean out of Texas is back. Miss Elizabeth Westfall, she's back here in the back. She's been serving as one of our superintendents for the show. She's back here behind me. Tyler Sparks for Region 11. And Mr. Chuck Fitzwater will be back. At this time, I would like to introduce our ambassador to the breed for this year, and that's Mr. Terry and Sue Taylor. It is my pleasure. I've known these fine folks for quite some time, and they've given me guidance as I needed. I probably didn't listen near as often as I should have, but it's been my pleasure to be associated with them, and I thank you too for all you've done for this association and this breed.
Thank you.
I'm sure you got something to say.
Oh, well, they told me I didn't have to give a speech, but let me get this straight now. Does that mean I get that lifetime membership now? Yes. Well, thank you so much. It's an honor for us to receive this. We started this thing. We were young 25 years ago, and we're still young. Anyway, this means a lot. And I had a big old speech prepared, but I don't think I can get it out. But I just want to say thank you. And to you, what is so special about this, I can talk about all the grand champions we received. I can talk about all the banners we received, the Bird Award, all those things we received, but this one here is the most special because it was given to us by you, our peers, and we appreciate that more than you'll ever know. Thank you very much.
You're up, buddy.
Well, I'll tell you, this is really, really cool to have this many passionate members all in one space for this national event and getting together for this membership meeting. I know last year when we had the meeting in here, we probably had just under 100 people. This year, over 500 people signed up for the lunch, so thank you. And thank you for sticking around to be a part of this. We really appreciate it. I count it as an honor to serve you as a director and as your treasurer. So today we're going to talk about a number of different topics. So if you've ever been to a membership meeting or maybe a town hall or a fireside chat, that's what we're going to do today. We're all together, but we want to talk about some things that are on everybody's minds, things that are going through your heads. You got questions today. I'm going to do my very best to address a lot of things that you may be hearing about or thinking about today in several different presentations. I'll do whatever I can to present everything to you that you can see and understand, so you understand where the association is at today and where we're going in the future. If you've been to any of the face-to-face meetings that the board does twice a year, you know that I like to do PowerPoint slides, because if I can show you a visual aid, you're 9 times more likely to recall the information I share with you today. But I'm going to do my best to explain and talk through a number of different topics with everybody. So if you follow the minutes, if you follow my treasurer's reports, I try to give you a real good glimpse on the finances. We're going to talk about that today. I'm going to take on I Compete. I'm going to talk about DNA. And we're going to talk about something called a 5-year strategic plan that you may or may not even know we established last fall. But these are all really key initiatives, really important for us to function well and to move this association forward with. So the first thing I like to call out is a little bit about our story. If you're not familiar, we actually have 2 different mission statements. And if we don't know our story or our mission statement, how do we expect anybody else out in the general public, prospective members, other associations to know who ABGA is and who we stand for? So if you can't read the screen, I'm going to read it for you. The mission statement for the American Boar Goat Association is this. The American Boar Goat Association will protect the core values and traits that make the boar goat the premier meat goat breed in America through promotion and recording of the breed, period. So who are we? ABGA is the largest boar goat association in the world. Be proud about that. For JABGA, the mission statement is to bring together boar goat enthusiasts through a youth organization that offers competitive programs to reward excellence, enhance educational opportunities, promote the value of genetics, and develop leadership skills through activities at local, state, and national levels. I wanted to start with that. Those are the core values that we as directors try to uphold every single day. You as members that love this association uphold every single day. Before I go to my next slide, I do want to recognize a number of people. I don't know if we've ever done this or not. As unpaid volunteers, as your directors, we love this association and serve you to the best of our abilities every day. But we're not alone. If you are currently serving on the 9 to 10 different committees that help this association function day, weekly, monthly, and yearly, would you please stand for me? If you're on the National Show Committee, Judges Committee, Breed Standards Committee, go on down the list. Out of the 8,000 members we have, every year hundreds of you put your hand up and say, I want to serve this association. We are all volunteer driven, And because of the efforts on the committee level, that allows us to understand where we're at and where we're going. If you've served on a committee before, please stand up. There's hundreds of you, please stand up. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you for your service in the past and today. If you've never served this association, every year, usually in July and August, we send out notifications. Here's opportunities to serve. Here's opportunities for your voice to be heard, for your input to be valued, and commit to a committee that ultimately rolls up to this board to help us lead, guide, and direct this association. Please consider that. Any chance I get, I promote that, because that is your opportunity to serve and to show what you're able to serve with this association. So the first thing I want to address, and I want to make sure my clicker is working. There we go. So we're going to talk finances for a minute. So if you've been around me, I'd like to talk finances, okay? I'll try not to make this boring and make a sleeper. I may even call on a few of you to keep you active, okay? So ABGA is a nonprofit 501c5 organization. We're focused on the protection of the breed and our youth. I've called this out multiple times, but as an association, we have to collect and pay out in annual bills about $1.5 to $1.6 million on an annual basis, okay? Sorry. Well, go back. Giving you a little bit of the story of where have we been, where are we at today, and where are we headed. If you haven't seen this, this has been posted at least once or twice over the last 2 years in the minutes I've presented, okay, or at these face-to-face meetings. So a little bit of where we've been. I started serving on the Finance Committee just shy of 3 years ago. I've been acting as your treasurer now for the last 23 months. So a little bit of where we've been. In 2021, the association delivered a net loss of $275,000. In 2022, we delivered a net loss of $60,000, okay? One of the things the board does on an annual basis is we set budgets for the upcoming year. So if you come together with us when we get together in December as a board and open to members in good standing, you can see how we set our budgets for the upcoming year. In December of 22, we set the budget for 23. We knew we had to make some corrective measures. There were some concerns about what I termed the COVID hangover. People coming out of the COVID era, trying to get back to normal lives. We were also looking at economy concerns, rising interest rates, inflation, and there was some concerns about member satisfaction. That's one thing I talk about a lot. Good news is in 2023, we finished the fiscal year with a positive balance of $47,000, okay? So we went from losing money to covering cost and had a surplus. I'll talk about this in my future slides. The difference maker in 2023 was simply due to the kindness of our vendors around this arena. If you haven't thanked them, please do that. Their donations, their gifts in kind, their willingness to participate and be here allows us to collect extra funds. Or you as an individual or a program that donated funds that go to the national show or to the regional show, it makes a difference. Last year we raised $150,000 plus gifts that covered our deficit and allowed us to do that. Next slide. One of the things I want to talk about before I get into national show expenses is this. One thing that we've recognized is we've been doing this now for 31 years as an association. 31 years. Yeah, Joette is putting her hand up. As far as we can tell from a financial perspective, it's been nearly 10 years since we did a deep financial dive to review all of our finances and to understand where we're at, okay? I'm going to share with you some of those learnings and some of the things we did to make sure that the foundation of our finances is solid and we're in a good place going forward. So what I'll tell you is, from an investment funds perspective, that's the money in the bank that we've reserved or banked up over the last 31 years. 3 years ago, 5 years ago, our finances were good, but they weren't as clean as they should be as far as a understanding where our resources were at. In 2021, the board did a deep dive to understand where all of our investment funds were at. We went from not knowing how much we had, where it was at, or not even seeing a positive returns on our investment plan. In 2022, the board identified and brought home 10 different investment accounts. There was a period of time where this board, trying to serve you, didn't understand the resources we had available to us or even where they were at. Due diligence was done when Katie Caruth was our ED and members of the finance committee. We found the savings accounts we had, stocks and bonds that were scattered around the country, and we brought them home. Next slide. In 2023, for the first time ever, this board had an opportunity to approve and instill the first investment plan strategy this association has ever had. Why is that important? First of all, for accountability, knowing where our resources are at, how they're being deployed, and how they can steward and bring additional investments back to our P&L or our budget sheet to foster future growth. So prior to us consolidating those bonds and stocks around the country and CDs, we actually in 2022 had a negative return on those CDs and bonds. A lot of them had matured out, were paying us back $0 for the money sitting in those accounts. But after we consolidated those accounts in 2023, we actually returned $108,000 in interest gains or earnings on that investment plan. For a P&L of $1.5 million, to be able to earn $108,000 that goes back to our budget or back into our investment plan, guys, that is absolutely huge. Now we all know economies go up and down. I'm not going to stand up here, or future treasurers will never stand up here and say, expect that every single year, right? Good thing is it's working for us right now. Next slide. Real quick, one of the things, if you read my treasurer's report almost on a monthly basis, I talk about income generators. Aside from donations, gifts, and fundraising, how does this association raise money? Can anybody tell me? Right there, registrations, transfers, and memberships. Ultimately, that's what pays the bills, right? Membership income. Coming out of COVID, our membership levels have returned to historical levels. During COVID, like a lot of other things in life, people got active with their kids and their communities and participated at extremely high levels. We saw an increase, and then we've come back down to historical numbers of where we're at. So if you didn't realize this, we are a membership base that annually is 8,000 plus members. Did you know that the American Board Goat Association is the second largest individual livestock breed association in this great nation? Did you know that? If you didn't, you should be proud, and you should be thinking and strategizing to the future on how we could become what? Number one. Does anybody know who the number one individual livestock breed association is in this great country? Angus. So when you think about certified Angus in the grocery store, or you think about the black color, people think Angus, right? We want the nation, we want goat producers to think about the number one goat breed or meat goat breed in the nation and on the planet as ABGA. Next slide. So one of the things that I like to call out is what we look at is we track adult and junior memberships. I talked about we're statistically flat. This year, we're off month to month just a little bit. We're trailing last year by 1.5%. I always call this out in my treasurer's report. When you look at memberships, you cannot do a snap in time and say that's it for the year. Because every single month we gain new memberships and renewals. So to be tracking 1.5% is good. But the real deal is I like to use the leaky bucket scenario. We're really good at filling the bucket with water from the top, or new memberships or renewals from the top. But if we can plug a few little leaks on the side or the bottom of our leaky bucket, the opportunity for growth for this association is through the roof. People love these goats. They love this association. If we can get rallied around a couple key initiatives, which I'm going to talk about later, is the 5-year strategic plan, this thing can grow from 8,000 or double in the next 10 to 20 years easily. Be thinking about that and strategizing around that. Income generators, keep going for me. At the moment, all registration segments are short in our 2024 budget. Follow my monthly reports in the Treasurer's report every month. One of the things we're looking at is an I-compete catch-up. We know the backlog, we know some of the frustrations leading up to nationals, so that impacts some of the registration and income. The other thing we're looking at is breeders exhibiting conservative approaches to a registration of goats. So maybe with the economy, instead of registering 100% of your goats, some of you are registering 75 or 90%. That has an impact on registrations. The other thing that is understandably off at the moment is our DNA income. I'll talk about DNA in just a few minutes, but we expect that thing to rebound and rebound fast with the launch of our upcoming DNA program. National show and regional show income. Giving you a historical perspective where we were at, where we were last year, and where we're going from an income and expenses. If you didn't realize this, so out of our 8,000 plus members, statistically 80 to 85% of our membership doesn't show goats. Do you realize that? Okay? So we have to bring value to them. But for those of us today here at Louisville, Kentucky, this national show event is a big deal. It's a big deal for the industry, right? So when we look at historical cost and income, last year in Grand Island, total expenses just over $241,000, delivered a net loss for the association. Not huge, but $16,000. Roll forward to last year. In Louisville last year, expenses were up. Expect that going forward. These national show events are not getting cheaper. What are they doing? They're getting more expensive, just like everything in our daily lives is getting more expensive. But last year, even with a big increase in cost, we delivered a positive $56,000. That money rolled then into the regional show program. I called out in one of my opening slides, the difference was the $150,000 plus in donations, gifts, and charitable donations. Without that, Louisville last year would have been a financial loss on paper, okay? This year, 2024, our costs are up. We don't have all the numbers in the books yet, and we don't have all the income in the books yet. But from January 1 till May, I'm going to tell you we've got a gap from last year to this year about $45,000. If you're here today, and if the kindness of your heart says, I'm still willing to contribute or give towards a national show, regional events, the juniors, I'm telling you we've got a gap to cover this year's cost. It's going to be about $40,000 to $45,000. Please see me or Hannah Jenkins after the meeting. We'd love to talk to you about ways to close that gap. Go back for me real quick. One of the things I slid in there, and I'm going to touch on this, Nationals 2025. Where are we at again next year? We're here, okay? Last August and September, I joined the committee. We had a new committee that's responsible for finding the new venues that will hold national shows for future years. We came out 2 years ago and we promised our membership base that we're going to try and rotate this thing somewhat, right? I was one of the people before I joined the committee that said, hey, we're a big deal in this world. We can just pick up the phone and call any venue we want and probably get the exact dates and pay the price we want to price. The reality of it is you can't do it that way. So my committee, we researched either 21 or 23 facilities for 2025, 26, all the way up to 2030. Even though we're the #2 livestock breed I mentioned, guess what? When school gets out, every livestock association, cattle, pigs, sheep, horses, FFA, rodeo, guess what they want to do? Everybody wants to rent a facility just like Louisville the first 3 to 4 weeks of the summer. The committee quickly recognized that we have a lot of stiff competition and we've not been forward thinking enough to get out ahead of the pressure to get these facilities. The decision to come back in 2025 to Louisville was a good decision, but out of necessity we had to move it a week ahead. We could not get this facility or any one of the 20-some locations we researched during the weeks of 2025 that we wanted. Our commitment to you is by 30 to 60 days from now, we expect to have multiple agreements that we can review and sign up from 26 all the way out to 2030, maybe even 31. Failure to lock up those facilities for that time frame will put us right back in this position. So from a director or a committee perspective, that's our commitment to you, is that when we lock in a location, we're going to do it for multi-years. But the reality of it is, when you call up any facility in the country and you tell them you need at least 2,000 pens to do exactly what we have out in that stalling barn, most of them have a heart attack or hang up on you. There's statistically today only 6 facilities in the US that can actually hold us, okay? And those are the same facilities all those other clubs and associations that referenced all want. So look for announcements in the next several months of where 26 to 30 will land, but we've got some really, really good options for those years. I want to take a moment and explain out of necessity, that's the only reason why we're moving next year up by 1 week, okay? Keep going. So from a quick budgeting perspective, we're managing expenses today and for this entire fiscal year. We're watching our incomes. We're using a conservative perspective on all of it. Keep rolling for me. Like anything, if you own a business or you look at your own finances, we're almost halfway through this year. We need a big push these last 6 months to come in close to where we expect. But what I will tell you is, we knew coming into this year it was going to be difficult for us to cover all of our expenses. So if you own a business or you look at your farm and you look at your income getting smaller, what do? Number one, most people go and say, I need to cut expenses, right? Guess what? When you look at our P&L, there's not a lot of expenses to cut out of it. So then what do you say? I need to sell more stuff. For us as an association to get back on offense, we need more memberships, transfers, etc. That's our income generation. But we're managing all those really closely, and we're trying to improve on ultimately what I call that member experience, where everybody's healthy, everybody's happy, and growing this association. Write this down. Take a note. Put your eyes on the screen for me. I mentioned the last 10 years we went for a period of time without a lot of financial reviews at a deep level. When I joined on the finance committee, Katie Caruth, Brenda McCray, our office manager, were doing everything they could to understand our finances, to produce financial documents. At that time, we switched to QuickBooks in the office. That helped out a lot. But one of the things that we recognized, we're not required by the IRS to audit our financials, but it is a good stewardship practice to basically audit our books every year. As your treasurer, the last 2 years, one of the main focuses we've had is getting caught up on audits. You can't flip a switch, you can't walk into your auditor in 24 hours, have these done. But in the last 18 months, we got 2019, 2020, and 2021 audits behind us. Write it down, June 3rd last week. Our 22 and 23 audits are done. They're completed. They're filed. So as a nonprofit 501c5, we file our taxes every year. So we had to go back and amend our 22 taxes by a couple $100. That was the difference between what we reported and our auditors reported. What we did in April is we thought that these audits would be done by April 15th. They weren't, so they gave us an extension on our audits and taxes. Last week, 23 audit was done, and we're filing taxes one time for 23. That will be done in the next 1 to 2 weeks and behind us. That's a good thing. I told you it's not required by the government or the IRS to do those audits, but in circles and committees we talk about getting federal grants. There's lots and lots of money for scientific research, studies, and education as an association that we can look to and file grant writing for. But without the audits, we were not eligible to even apply for any of those grants. Write it down. We are caught up on it, and as we move forward, that would be a key initiative for committee members and our staff and a future executive director to be focused in on. Now, don't get me wrong, that is not free money. The government just doesn't write us a check. This is for education, research, could be DNA related, could be husband related, could be animal health related, educational related. Think about those things. If you have good ideas or you got grant writing experience, put your both your hands up and let us know. Grant writing experience is very, very vital to us going forward. One thing I want to talk about, something on our balance statement, okay? I got two big words on there, deferred dues and deposits on account. Most of you have no idea what I'm talking about. If you looked at our balance sheet, one of the things that we look at every year is not just income and expenses. We talked about our investment plan. This specific line item, there's two line items that go back. This issue or topic has been going on for 20 years in our finances. So what I'm going to describe is this. Over the last 20 years, Derek Weatherall, let me pick on you. Derek's a friend, former director, former president. Derek, if you wrote a check 10 years ago to the association, your bill was $99, but you felt like writing $100, guess what Derek did? He got the invoice for $99 for simple practice on his end. He sent a check in for $100. There was a difference of $1. Sometimes it was $10 or $20. Those funds sat in what we're calling is, whoop, go back for me, in our deferred dues or income. It's not in our checkbook. It's not in our investment plan. It's been sitting there. And over 20 years, we've accumulated a lot of those. So this isn't bad financial stewardship with all the turnover in employees, changeover in systems. At the end of the year, a lot of these small credits were overlooked. So for the last number of years, it's been a known issue. Katie tried working on it. Brenda started working on it. Catherine Klug started working on it. We have some big ticket items. There's lots of examples where somebody paid for something, they received that service or product, but at the end of the year, nobody matched up the debits and credits. Folks, we're working on it. What I could tell you is, go forward for me, there's 21,000 line items that I'm describing to you. Many of those are under $1, under $10 or $20. We now have instructions from the state of Texas and IRS, as well as from our auditor, on how to start addressing some of those. So some of these credits are recent. So this is something that has been ongoing, but has actually escalated during the I Compete era over the last 12 months. Once again, I know for our family, when we register goats, rather than paying for every single flush paper, transfer, registration, oftentimes we put $100 on our account or $1,000 on account. One of the weaknesses we have today is that system is not set up to track the debits and credits to make sure we zero out credit balances. So I'm not calling this a problem, but it's a situation that we are addressing. Now that the audits are behind us, we're caught up on the taxes. I'm telling you, the amount of work it will take to clean up 21,000 line items from 20 years, the board has heard it from me, we'll probably have to hire a full-time individual for at least a year to track each of those individual items, clean them up, and get that behind us. But going forward, we have to have eyes on that so it doesn't snowball and become something bigger over time. I wanted to address that so everybody sees that if they see that in my financial reports. I'm going to jump into DNA real quick. Okay, I'm going to hit on some fun topics. I promise I won't let you go to sleep in DNA. I'm going to represent where have we been, where are we at, and where are we going. I am not the DNA expert in this association. I recognize that. The good thing is we have some really, really smart, intelligent people that have been serving on the DNA committee for years. They've got degrees in this stuff. They've got a lot of passion. And if you get them off to the side, they will talk DNA with you for hours upon hours, okay? So briefly touching on DNA, where have we been? Since 2014, the initial rollout of DNA at ABGA, we've tested 27,000 DNA samples through a method of what we call STR technology. With STR, parentage exclusions are 100% accurate, but parentage qualifications are not. One of the fundamental reasons why DNA was launched 10 years ago now was that if you had a buck or doe in front of you, DNA should tell you who the sire and dam is without any concern or question, right? That was the intent. That's why we did the program for the last 10 years. One of the things that's recognized is with STR technology, the way we've been doing this is that closely related animals are hard to distinguish between themselves with STR technology. In recent years, with all the adoption, and I know we've got a lot of people in the room that flush goats or buy donors and flush donors, do the embryo thing. We do that a lot at our place, okay? The difficulty with STR technology is if Jason Miller and I, we do a flush, I have a buck from the flush, he has a buck from the flush. The DNA, the way we've been doing through STR, struggles to distinguish between these two animals and potentially even validate who those animals are. And with every year, potentially thousands of closely related animals coming into our herd book, it became an issue that we had to address. So one of the things is the STR technology, it didn't take us down a dead-end road, but ultimately the path to current technologies and future technologies were severely limited with what we were doing. We were not going to advance like all the other livestock associations are doing, like many foreign countries were doing with STR technology. So one of the things that will be in our 5-year strategic plan and key initiatives with DNA going forward is long-term consistency in our herd book with value-added DNA results. Not just identifying who the sire and dam is of a particular animal, but genetic traits that can or may be passed on to their offspring. If you're in the cattle world, pig world, you know what I'm talking about, right? You're looking for certain traits, desirable or undesirable, that you either want to cut out or add to your herd. We're looking at incentivizing member participation, increasing the genetic pool of known desirable traits to drive genetic improvement is crucial for us. Creating diversification and alignment amongst partners. So outside of ABGA, private universities, private laboratories, other associations, and potentially other associations in other countries to study, to analyze, and move Boer goat genetics forward. We're trying to track and find those economic relevant traits and increase the profitability for producers. So beyond parentage verification, there should eventually be a value add to you as a member growing, raising Boer goats. That's an end game for our DNA program. When I share with you the 5-year strategic plan, or if you've seen it, we did 27 samples in 10 years with a new robust program. Our goal is we're shooting for 20,000 samples within a 5-year window. We think that's certainly possible. There's enough interest today in DNA, doing DNA properly, and finding value add in DNA in the future that we think we can blow that number out of the water. Real quick. Genomics help us clear what was once unknown in the animal to helping us predict future profitability in the animal that we're raising. It allows producers to optimize the profitability and yields in their herds by making different and more strategic breeding decisions. Once again, if you're in that, I think, cattle world, whether it's beef or dairy, you are making business decisions based upon the paper capabilities of that particular animal you're looking to invest. We aren't there today. In the future, that's part of our goal. So the need for change, it became very, very evident with those dedicated committee members I talked to you about, that moving from STR to what we call SNP technology was very, very important for us to do, and to do it quickly. The SNP technology has become the standard in research amongst public and private researchers, as well as most livestock associations. What we're looking at is not just comparing, but validating our herd and developing short-term, long-term values to deliver on that. And with this robust DNA strategy, once it's implemented, that will deliver on the member experience that I'm describing to you. This will allow us to validate those closely related animals. I use the Jason Miller example of 2 flush mates. It will allow us to track or to trace the genetic variations amongst animals. It's also important because it's associated with quantitative traits, both good and bad, what we're trying to find. And SNP information is available for parentage verification and is larger and more accurate than what we were doing before. Keep rolling for me. So, over the last several years, I referenced this very passionate group of members dedicated to DNA. They have strongly supported the need to the transition of SNP technology. The commitment and our staff are ready to deliver on this new proposal to the board in the coming month or two. We are, as a board and as a leadership team, excited to bring this new DNA program forward to our membership base. So that's a quick rundown of where we've been, where we're at, and where we want to take DNA. I compete. Let's talk I compete for a little bit. Okay? Everybody having fun? Everybody awake? All right. 2 thumbs up. So, where have we been, where are we at, and where we're going? One of the things that we recognize is oftentimes in the absence of information, what happens? People are confused or they make up stuff that snowballs and then people start to believe, right? What I'd like to do is use a couple of examples. Who's carrying a flip phone from 20 years ago in their pocket today? Anybody? Anybody at all? Didn't think so. In the cell phone world, most cell phones are killed, denied, or out of the market within 3 years or less. Let's be real about it. When we moved from the old system, everybody thought they'd get a little package on their computer or their iPhone with a nice little ribbon on it. You'd open it up and it'd be just like your brand new iPhone 15. Anybody have those expectations? I kind of did. I just thought it would happen, Joetta. But at the end of the day, did anybody, their first experience with iCompete look like the iPhone with the cracked screen? You probably could see the date and time, but didn't have a lot of functionality because it wasn't working right. Okay, that's my analogy of how maybe iCompete felt to you and to us a year ago. Is that fair? Okay, next slide. So let's talk about where we were at. The old system, referred to as ABRI, that's the parent company that owned ILR in the blue screen. I'm one of the lucky ones in my house. I rarely do registration stuff, but I've got a loving wife and Cecilia that have always done that for our program. They've educated me a lot the last 12 months on iCompete capabilities and struggles, just like everybody in this room has experienced. I'm getting a lot of head nods, right? We're all in this together. What people don't realize is that company was based in Australia. Cell phone example. If you're not happy with your phone today, what do? You take it back to the store where you bought it, or if you're not happy with that service provider, Joetta, what do? Right, take it back or they help you fix it. And if you're not happy there, you could drive down the road and pick 10 other cell phone places that will want your business. Folks, the reality of it is, with the old system or the new system, there were not dozens of IT-based companies in the US around the planet designed, set up, and ready to handle ABGA stuff. That's the reality. If you're an IT person, which I'm not, you'll recognize that. And the technology, either on your phone, your computer, or these database systems, changes. It changes rapidly, and it's usually very expensive to update and keep the thing rolling and updated and modern. People are shaking their heads. You know what I'm talking about. In 2021, the board received the recommendation from a third-party auditor, along with advisors from the company ABRI, that it was time to consider an upgrade. Okay? That's your salesperson looking at your 3-year-old iPhone with the cracks and problems saying, guess what? You need a new iPhone. That's what they were telling us in 2021. So what we looked at was from 2018 to 2020, our IT system, our server-based old program that IRL and the blue screen, server-based, functional at a platform level, not mobile, not transparent, not cloud-based, was starting to give us issues. So we couldn't update it, and it provided no mobility for operations and gave us risk if we had server problems or if the server crashed. In the last 5 years, we had a significant problem when our server in San Angelo crashed. Trying to avoid that with the old system was not doable. Next slide. During the COVID era, the recognition for continuous technology advancements, an iCloud-based system became evident and what I would call a screaming necessity amongst the leadership team. We all recognize that we want knowledge, we want information at our fingertips. We couldn't do that with the old system. Keep going. In 2021, ABRI, the Australian-based company that owned the old system, started having conversations with the ABGA, and we started a planning transition from one platform to a new one. Next slide. Formal agreement was signed between ABRI and ABGA in late 2022 between both parties. The association, the leadership team, was sold. iCompete would be an all-in-one registry and show platform, day ready, number one. Okay? Next slide. ABRI, the owner and developer of the old system and the new systems, assured us 0 anticipated issues in the transition period. Hear that? Everybody's laughing. Okay, we had some concerns, right? Just like you. Keep going. By January of 2023, the office was slowly starting to explore and rule out and learn about iCompete. It was slow going. Go back, I want that highlighted real quick. It was a slow going system, and we recognized iCompete was not ready for us. Okay? The board recognized that. The office recognized that. But please listen to what I'm about to tell you. Next slide. In June of 2023, the online live started to have big issues. I'm going to describe that big issue and multiple issues. The customary support that we used to receive from ABRI, guess what? It stopped. ABRI owned the old system, and they owned iCompete, the new system. We could not get these issues resolved on our end. One of the bugs that was discovered, you may or may not have heard this, but if I owned a goat, the bug that got our attention was all of a sudden Joetta could register a goat out of a female she's never owned. Is that a problem? Big problem, right? We had to shut down the system. We recognized we couldn't get the system fixed at the office level. And guess what? They wanted us to navigate, move quickly to the new system. So the support mechanisms that we used to rely on basically stopped. We were dead in the water and couldn't get the old system fixed. Next slide. We were forced to go with iCompete on the member side, and you weren't ready, the system wasn't ready, office wasn't ready. Keep going. From June to August of 2023, the office tried to function with the old system, ILR, while the members struggle with iCompete. So office is trying to function with the old system that has bugs in it. It's not being supported. You were in the field having issues with iCompete, and the two systems were struggling. They weren't functioning together, and we no longer had the support we needed on the old system, and the expected support on iCompete was not coming. Okay? Next slide. At that time, the decision was made for the office to go to iCompete, where both members and staff, you're functioning on the same platform now. We recognize office staff and membership base were in the same platform now, but the system was not functioning. But at least the data, the corrections, the work orders were flowing to one system instead of two struggling systems, if that makes sense. Guess what? In the middle of that, you may not have known this. Many of you don't even know that the original company was based in Australia. They are. They decided to sell the iCompete platform. Anybody know that? A few of you? So we're in a troubled situation, system's not functioning, customer support out of Australia was weak at best. All of a sudden, surprise, surprise, they sold the company. We didn't see that company coming. There was no notification there, okay? So during that transition, ABRI leaves and this new company from Australia steps in called Cipher Digital IQ. Both Australian-based digital companies. Keep going. So communication coordination with Cipher IQ has improved over the last several months, and they've been a lot more consistent with us. It's not like we could drive down the street to the local Verizon or AT&T or Sprint dealer with the problem with their iPhone. They are in Australia, so we're overcoming time zone differences. But for them to give us all the service and support, it's been a challenge. We've identified issues for the last 12 months. We continue to identify some issues that they are working towards. Unfortunately, they're not in our office. They're not on our payroll. We're one of many customers. It's hard to leverage or to negotiate and to get them to move faster. It frustrates us at an extremely high level, and if you're still encountering some of the issues in the system, you know what I'm describing. But they're on the list, and we're working towards those. We've identified more friendly focused areas being addressed moving forward. Once these several areas are improved upon, then down the road, not today, not tomorrow, there will be other functionality that we described to you a year and a half ago that could come to iCompete. But right now, our registry has to function accurately and at an extremely high, fast level to keep us happy, to keep our, guess what, income generators flowing. That is our first and ultimate commitment to you. Keep going. We acknowledge this, that this has been challenging, but you have our commitment that we're doing everything we can on our end to deliver on a platform we can all be proud of. The improvements in the last several months on general functionality has gotten really, really good. We know those areas where it's still weak or slow or requires manual reviews and processes. We are addressing those. Please be patient on those last few. I encourage you, if you know of issues that have not been addressed, don't stay silent about them, but I'd encourage you, reach out directly to either your director or send us an email. I can guarantee you, if it's a known issue, you're probably not the only one experiencing it, but let us work towards getting that list of fixes done for you. That is our commitment as a leadership team and board for each of you. Keep going. My last topic, how are we doing on time? Okay, we're gonna roll. I mentioned strategic planning earlier. Did anybody know or hear that we actually launched a strategic plan last December? Probably not. I opened up with our opening mission statements. Most of us don't stop to think to be able to tell our story, we need to know our story to begin with. Most organizations set goals or planning for the upcoming year or years to come. We've had this mission statement for years for the association and for the juniors, but ultimately, after 31 years, where is this big giant boat navigating the waters in? Where does this thing need to go, not just into the months or years ahead, but at least 5 years out? We have to have some common goals. So what is a strategic plan, and why do we need one? It's a document presentation that outlines any company or association's goals and how they plan to achieve them. It should include our mission statement and vision for the future, clearly defines ABGA's short-term and long-term goals. In 31 years, has anybody ever said these are common goals as a member base of 8,000 that we should be rallying towards and working towards? Has anybody ever heard that? Joetta? No, right? Moving forward, we're identifying those common goals. So whether you're here at Nationals, back on your farm, at a local show, talking to members or prospective members, you have a general idea of where this boat is headed, okay? Let's keep rolling. It keeps us focused and aligned month after month, year after year, election cycle after election cycle, and with constant changes on the board and on the committee. If the common goal, the light, the beacon we're shooting for remains the same, that's what we should be shooting for. So strategic plan benefits for ABGA. A strong plan will help us formulate strategies with logical approach systems rather than philosophy or emotions of the ever-shifting popular opinions of the day. Things that are important today may not be important a year from now, and they probably weren't important 2 years ago. So what are those commonalities? Keep going. Talk about goal setting. So here's some of the strategic plan stuff for ABGA. Whoop. Once again, the mission statement. This is what we rally around. The promotion of the breed. We are the premier goat breed in the world. A focus on youth. I'll cover this in just a second. Keep rolling. So who are we? If we can't tell who we are, we got to memorize this. Who are we? Our association is breeders, the exhibitors, ranchers, hobbyists, business owners of all ages, all backgrounds, with all goals, both domestic and international, all parts of the agricultural industry. Keep going. So, part of our demand is it's at an all-time high for goat meat. Globally, U.S. domestic, people don't realize how much global demand, domestic demand there is for goat meat. We have to be good at telling that story and marketing our product. We have to invest in our genetics for herd improvement. And once again, tell our story and be proud. We are the world's largest meat goat association for a reason. Time to perform, time to act, and move this thing forward to keep us at the top. So existing ABGA members and future members, we welcome you and we thank you. This thing's going to grow. This thing's going to do the right things. I talked about going from 8,000 to doubling that. If we can rally around these 5 key initiatives, we can achieve that. Here's the 5 key initiatives. Member services, member satisfaction. All of us in this room as members, keeping your satisfaction high and allowing this breed association to perform at a high level for you. A huge focus on youth development. If you didn't look around last year or here and notice an investment, a focus on the youth, I'm sorry, you're probably blind. Some statistics. Moving from Grand Island to here last year, guess what we did? We increased the number of not just goat entries, but junior participation by 25%. This year, there's people thinking our numbers would be flat or down. We're not huge up like 25%, but we increased 3 to 5% over last year's historic success. And it's our juniors that are today and our future that are allowing us to do that. Retain and develop talent, that's our staff. If you haven't noticed over the years, we tend to turn over a lot of people in our office. We've got some really good ones. We want to retain them. We want to protect them and invest in them. We need to work towards marketing and brand awareness and then breed improvements. I'm going to roll through a couple of slides and just capture a couple talking points on each of those, then we'll be done. So our commitment to you as our members. Provide continuous improvement to streamlined, user-friendly services and tools. Alignment of strategies and goals for the betterment of the association. Find workable solutions to member challenges in production, marketing, and selling of the goats. We need to be fiscally responsible of the ABGA resources for the betterment of the breed and the membership base. Focus on youth to develop future leaders. Starts with youth development through education, age-appropriate tools and resources, hands-on activities designed to encourage and support youth and their passions. If you walk around this barn, a lot of people got started either as a junior or having a child in their house that loves this breed and loves this association. That's what it's all about. We think going forward, if we outline a lot of these initiatives and promotion of the breed and the junior involvement, that we can go from just over 2,000 members to 3,500 junior members in the next 5 years. Individually, collectively, when you talk to us as a team or an individual director, help hold us accountable to deliver on these 5 key initiatives. And if the youth isn't at the top of your list, please reconsider. Next one. I talked about the commitment to our dedicated ABGA staff. Set the foundation for staff to excel as a team and grow in the programs under their guidance. Provide appropriate resources, ongoing professional development. Help them focus on the member experience, the promotion of the association. Notice the bottom one. And we are actively working on hiring, retaining, deploying an executive director. We hope to have success stories in that arena over the next several months. But believe me, this designated board of directors is engaging on all of those. Next one. I already talked about the improvement of DNA, laid out the value of the future DNA, but if you're like us at our farm, I've got stacks of DNA ready to roll, go live. If we can't deliver on DNA for the next 5 to 50 years, our association will be left in the dust. Brand awareness for goat meat. The market rule for boar goats is enhancing sustainability profitably for goat herds in the U.S. and around the globe. I referenced 80% of our members don't show goats. They may sell them into the show market, but there is a huge, huge meat market and demand and awareness that we need to educate the consumer and the breeder on. We are the meat goat of the U.S. and on the planet. Today, 40-some foreign countries want to invest in our genetics or buy our genetics. Did you realize that? Outside of your state or national level, globally, people want to buy goats from ABGA or our genetics. Phenotypic improvement, educational resources and selection. This will be part of the member education side that we deploy. I want to close with this slide, and there's a lot of truth in this. No matter what your favorite color of Boer goat is, I want you to know that ABGA has your back today into the future of the Boer goats at ABGA. Let's put aside differences. Let's rally around common goals. Let's support one another. And when I talk about growth, sustainability, member satisfaction, hold each other accountable. Let's do the right things as a team, as a big family, and we can make big time things happen, not just in the year to come, but for decades to come. Thank you. Concludes. And with that, that concludes the biggest well-attended membership meeting in history. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting everybody. We're going to take a few minutes to clear out the show arena, get the movie screen down, and then we'll kick off the last portion of our Buck Show. Thank you very much.